Are you saying if there were no government involved, the price would go down? Because the fear is if there were no government involved, the price would get even higher and people wouldn't be able to afford medicine.
Yes, I do, but a lot more than probably what you're thinking about, because you have to have competition in the delivery of care. For instance, if you have a sore throat and you have to come see me, you have to wait in the waiting room and then get checked and then get a prescription and go, and it ends up costing you $100. If you had true competition, you should be able to go to a nurse who could, for 1/10 the cost and very rapidly do it, and let her give you a prescription for penicillin. See, the doctors in the medical profession have monopolized, the system through licensing. So, and that's not an accident, because they like the idea that you have to go see the physician and pay the huge price. And patients can sort this out. I mean, they're not going to go to the nurse if they need brain surgery. They can go there for a sore throat or
let's say that I'm poor and you're not. That means that you can afford, to get your cancer checked out early, and I might hold off waiting because I can't afford it.
And what you need to do is just go
the
back.
idea is that right. When it comes to health, it's not a pure, raw economic issue. It's your body, it's your life.
It really can be. It really can be. Just look at everything before 1965. I mean, how many people can you get me any pictures of people just dying in the streets because they didn't get any medical care? No, there was more wealth. The country is wealthier. There's more generosities. The churches would be running the hospitals. Now, everything is the maximum cost. You come to the emergency room now, and especially because of the litigation involved, doctors have to overorder, and if you're not on the government system, you're put on and you're charged the maximum. When I was working at the Santa Rosa Hospital, the minimum was charged, and if you didn't have any money, you weren't charged at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. People are frightened about freedom, and there's no reason to be frightened about it. It really works. It has worked for many, many years, and we've only had the real test of freedom in this country for a short period of time when you look at all of history. But most of the world has been run by totalitarians, control and central government and socialist ideas. And I just have a much more confidence that free people are capable of taking care of themselves, and that government bureaucracies don't work. Central economic planning doesn't work.
Let me jump in here, and I think we'll have to follow up on more of the free market and when it works and when it might not at another interview. We've got lots of people waiting on the line who want to talk to you. Jen, thanks for that healthcare question. Jim is calling from Stafford. Hi, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Paul. I just wanted to say thanks for your stance on anti-intervention on foreign policy, because I've spent 17 years in the military and suffered through Clinton's interventionist foreign policy.
Wow, thanks.
I'm in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. My question is, do you believe that Congress should have to read the bills that they pass? In other words, I don't know if you've seen the Read the Bills Act. Do you support that legislation?
Yes, I do, and I've introduced legislation that was very similar, but I support that legislation. I think they should read it, and they should sign that they've read it, and that they understand it, and they know how they're going to finance it, and they should justify it by the Constitution. But certainly the Patriot Act would have never been passed because it wasn't available to us. It's a very, very complex piece of legislation. It was almost 400 pages long. It became available less than an hour before it was debated on the House floor.
Really?
And everybody,
an hour before it was debated on the House floor?
Everybody was panicked. The people want us to do something. This is the terrible thing about, when people become frightened. And this is why governments and officials always want to pump out the fear. Well, you got to do something. But these Patriot Act, that type of bill was available even before 9/11. They saw this as an opportunity. But the congressmen were intimidated. If I do nothing, my people are going to be mad because they want us to do something. And people are frightened. When they are frightened, they're much more willing to give up their liberties. But giving up their liberties won't make them safer. That's the real sad part of it.
Democrats say that President Bush has become a chief fearmonger and that Dick Cheney is a chief fearmonger. Again, this is what Democrats say, that they have frightened people so that they can stay in power. How do you feel about that criticism of the Bush administration?
I think there's a lot of fear-mongering going on all around, whether it's on foreign policy or domestic policy. Just think about, just recently there's another possible terrorist attack. These people they arrested. I think that's the 11th time. I don't think anybody's ever been prosecuted. And these people ended up, they had no money and no explosives. I mean, I don't think you should ignore that, but it ought to be put in perspective.
You're talking about the most recent case at the airport.
Yeah. and we should deal with it, but it shouldn't be used to further invade our privacies. And that's what they do. Anytime they can stir up the fear, whether it's international, that they're going to hit us with a nuclear weapon, the people, oh, well, we have to do something, and people are easily intimidated. I think that most government officials over the past several decades have overdone the use of fear to scare the American people into giving up their liberties. I think it's a dangerous trend.
So it's been a bipartisan tactic,
I think so, and I think it's also done in economic policy too, you know. If you don't have the government, everything is going to go to pot, so therefore we have to have what would happen if you didn't have FEMA? Could we take care of our floods and our hurricanes? Oh, think of this, yeah, probably could. FEMA gets in the way sometimes.
Let's go to Manchester. Keith is waiting there. Hi, Keith. Go ahead. Thanks for hanging on.
Hi. Oh, no. Glad to do it. Thanks for being on, Congressman Paul. I just wanted to ask, this is your second run for president, and I wanted to see how different this was from 88 and what you're noticing difference-wise and what you learned in 88 that you're using now.
Great questions, Keith.
Right.
Thank you.
I think the big thing that I've learned over all these years is that democracy is not alive and well in this country. We go about the world fighting to spread democracy and tell them how they live, but we really don't have a democratic system, because if you're not in the Republican or Democratic Party, you get very, very little attention. You don't get into debates. It's virtually impossible to get on the ballot. So I went through that. And,
as a libertarian candidate in 88.
And if you're a billionaire, if you're Ross Perot, you can, manage to get on the ballots. But it's very biased against alternative viewpoints. So it is important we recognize that. But I'm not uncomfortable in the Republican Party, but it's sort of sad that you have to do this in a Republican or Democratic Party. I mean, I wouldn't be getting any attention if I was in a third party. And I'm always encouraging third parties, but I think the laws are difficult because the Republicans and the Democrats aren't looking for the competition. They want to monopolize it. So in many ways, we are less democratic than some other systems where they have multiple parties and more people represented than they're able to be represented here.
Would you rather be running as a libertarian again?
Well, I had disagreements with the Libertarian Party, not major. Some of the immigration policies and the abortion issue. So I see the vehicle. For me, it's secondary. To me, the message is the most important, and I think education is more important than politics. So I operate the best I can under the circumstances that exist.
Let's take one more call, Congressman. This is Wes calling from Deerfield. Hi, Wes. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning. My question to you, sir, is you talk about the free market making the right choices and whatnot. What about the externalities that have brought us climate change that the free market didn't and isn't controlling at this point?
Thanks, Wes, for that call.
I think this is a tough one, and I think it's very important. I think the jury's still out on exactly the absolute cause of climate change, but let's assume and give the benefit of the doubt that we contribute to it. The free market approach is that you have no right to pollute your neighbors, air, water, or property. Governments have permitted this for too long. In the Industrial Revolution, there's been too much of a collusion between corporations and government. Governments pollute and do damage too. And the worst pollution was in the most socialized country ever, and that was in the Soviet system. So it's by strict property rights, and then you have to come up with agreements on neighboring countries. So if we have trouble with Canada or Mexico, you have to get together and talk and try to persuade each other. But we don't have the authority nor the force to go to China right now and close down their factories. So it's a difficult problem and one that certainly needs a lot more study.
Well, and Congressman Paul, I hope you'll come back because we have a lot of issues that we didn't explore thoroughly, but we'll do it again. But one last question for you. Tonight is the big debate at St. Anselm College. What do you hope to accomplish tonight?
Well, I hope to accomplish exactly what we've been able to accomplish on the last two, getting more attention and more support for the campaign and a lot more money coming into the campaign. That's happened before on the last two debates, and keep the campaign moving along. And so far we've been pleasantly surprised and very pleased.
And who's going to be in the audience for you tonight? Those are hot tickets. It's hard to get a seat.
Oh, yeah. Well, my wife will be here. She's been at each of the debates, and she'll come with several of the grandchildren, and we sort of are rotating them around. Last time the granddaughters got to go to South Carolina. Now we have some grandsons coming this time.
You have 17 grandchildren.
That is correct.
All right. And another one on the way, as I understand.
That is correct, in a month.
Well, Congressman Paul, thank you very much. We'll see you the next time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's real nice to be here.